When we think of prehistoric giants, our minds often jump to towering dinosaurs, massive sharks, or woolly mammoths. But the ancient world was full of surprises, and sometimes the most interesting stories come in smaller packages. Today we're going to explore a creature that might seem familiar at first glance, but was far from ordinary. Imagine a squirrel, but not just any squirrel, one that dwarfed all of its modern relatives. This was Paramis, the largest squirrel to ever walk the earth. Now you might be picturing a squirrel the size of a bear, scampering up redwood trees or terrorizing prehistoric humans. The reality is a bit more modest, but no less fascinating. Paramis was indeed giant for a squirrel, and its story offers a unique window into the early evolution of rodents and the ancient ecosystems they inhabited. The tale of Paramis begins in the mid-19th century in North America. The first fossils were discovered in Wyoming's Green River Formation, a treasure trove of Eocene fossils that has given us insights into life just after the age of dinosaurs. The name Paramis means mouse beside, or almost mouse in Greek. This name was chosen because while Paramis showed clear rodent characteristics, it was distinct enough from modern rodents to warrant its own genus. Several species of Paramis have been identified, with Paramis delicatus being one of the larger and better-known species. As more fossils were unearthed across North America and Europe, paleontologists began to piece together a clearer picture of this ancient rodent. Unlike many prehistoric creatures known only from fragmentary remains, we have fairly complete skeletons of Paramis, giving us a good idea of what this animal looked like and how it lived. Paramis belonged to the order Rodentia, the same group that includes modern squirrels, mice, rats, and beavers. However, Paramis was part of a now extinct family called Ischiromyidae, which is considered one of the most primitive rodent families. While not a direct ancestor of modern squirrels, Paramis represents an early branch of rodent evolution. It shared a common ancestor with all modern rodents, making it a sort of cousin to every squirrel, mouse, and capybara alive today. The existence of Paramis and its relatives shows us that rodents diversified rapidly after the extinction of the dinosaurs. They took advantage of new ecological niches, experimenting with different sizes and lifestyles. Now, let's address the elephant, or rather, the giant squirrel, in the room. How big was Paramis exactly? The largest species of Paramis, like Paramis delicatus, could reach sizes comparable to a marmot or a large groundhog. They likely weighed between 4 to 6 kilograms, or 9 to 13 pounds, and measured about 60 to 70 centimeters, or 24 to 28 inches, from nose to tail tip. To put this in perspective, the largest squirrel alive today is the Indian giant squirrel, which can weigh up to 2 kilograms, or 4.4 pounds, and measure up to 75 centimeters or 30 inches, including its very long tail. The common gray squirrel we're familiar with in many parts of North America typically weighs less than 600 grams, or 1.3 pounds. So, while Paramis wasn't the size of a bear, it was a true giant among squirrels. Imagine a squirrel as big as a large house cat or a small dog. That's Paramis. What made Paramis special wasn't just its size, but its adaptations that give us clues about its lifestyle and the world it lived in. Like all rodents, Paramis had ever-growing incisors, perfect for gnawing on tough plant material. However, its skull structure was more primitive than modern rodents. The infraorbital foramen, an opening in the skull, was smaller than in modern rodents, suggesting that Paramis had less sophisticated cheek musculature for chewing. Its molars were low-crowned and had a complex pattern of cusps, ideal for omnivorous feeding. This dental structure suggests that Paramis had a varied diet, possibly including nuts, seeds, fruits, and maybe even insects. Paramis had strong, flexible limbs that were well adapted for climbing. Its hands and feet were equipped with sharp claws, another feature that would have aided in scaling trees. However, the proportions of its limbs suggest it was probably not as agile in the trees as modern squirrels. Some species of parames show adaptations for digging, with strong forelimbs and robust claws. This indicates that some parames might have had a more ground-dwelling lifestyle, perhaps similar to modern groundhogs. Parames had a long, thick tail, though not as bushy as modern squirrels. This tail likely aided in balance while climbing and could have served as a fat storage organ, helping parames survive lean times. Parames lived during the Eocene epoch, approximately 56 to 33.9 million years ago. This was a time of significant global warming, known as the Eocene optimum. The world was much warmer than today, with subtropical forests extending into high latitudes. Based on where fossils have been found and the creature's adaptations, we can infer that parames inhabited forested areas. It was likely both terrestrial and arboreal, meaning it spent time both on the ground and in trees. The varied diet of parames would have been well suited to the diverse Eocene forests. These environments were teeming with a variety of plant life, including early versions of many modern plant families. Parames would have feasted on a range of foods, from nuts and seeds to fruits and possibly even bird eggs or insects. Parames coexisted with a range of other fascinating creatures. The Eocene forests were home to early primates, primitive horses, no bigger than dogs, and bizarre mammals like Uintatherium, a rhinoceros-like beast with multiple horns. In the skies, early birds were diversifying, while in the undergrowth, snakes and lizards slithered and scurried. Imagine a scene where a parames, the size of a house cat, scampers up a giant dawn redwood tree, keeping a wary eye out for predators like the wolf-like hyenodon or early birds of prey. It's a far cry from the world of modern squirrels. But parames would have faced many of the same challenges: finding food, avoiding predators, and surviving changing seasons. Parames and its close relatives thrived for millions of years, but they eventually went extinct. The reasons for their extinction are not entirely clear, but it likely involved a combination of factors. First, climate change. The cooling and drying of the global climate at the end of the Eocene may have reduced the forested habitats that parames preferred. Second, competition. The evolution of more advanced rodent species, with more efficient teeth and jaws for processing plant material, may have outcompeted parames. And third, predation. The evolution of new mammalian predators could have put pressure on parames populations. While parames itself went extinct, its legacy lives on in the incredible diversity of rodents we see today. Rodents have been incredibly successful, evolving into a wide array of forms, from tiny harvest mice to capybaras, the largest living rodents. The study of parames and other early rodents has provided valuable insights into the evolution of this diverse group. For example, the primitive skull structure of parames has helped scientists understand how the complex jaw musculature of modern rodents evolved. Unlike its more fearsome prehistoric contemporaries, parames hasn't made many appearances in popular culture. It's rarely featured in documentaries or books about prehistoric life. However, for those who know about it, parames serves as a fascinating example of how familiar animals have very different relatives in the past. In a way, parames is like the prehistoric equivalent of those forced perspective photos where people make house cats look enormous. It takes something familiar, a squirrel, and scales it up to surprising proportions. If we were to bring parames into the modern world, how would it compare to today's rodents? Size. Parames would dwarf most modern squirrels and would be comparable in size to some of the largest living rodents, like marmots or beavers. Diet. Its omnivorous diet would be similar to that of many modern rodents, but its more primitive teeth might make it less efficient at processing tough plant material. Habitat. Parames would probably be most at home in forested areas, much like many modern squirrels. Behavior. While it could climb trees, Parames might not be as acrobatic as modern squirrels. It might behave more like a groundhog, comfortable both on the ground and in trees. Compared to the largest modern rodent, the capybara, Parames would still be considerably smaller. Capybaras can weigh up to 65 kilograms, making them about 10 times heavier than the largest Parames. Parames, the largest squirrel to ever walk the earth, might not have been as massive as some prehistoric mammals, but its story is no less fascinating. This giant rodent provides a unique window into the early evolution of one of the most successful groups of mammals on the planet. From its humble beginnings in the forests of the Eocene, the rodent lineage that Parames represents would go on to conquer almost every terrestrial habitat on Earth. Today, rodents make up about 40% of all mammal species, a testament to the evolutionary innovations that started with creatures like Parames.